A single pair of mice can produce over 60 offspring in 1 year inside your walls before you ever see one. By the time you spot droppings in a drawer, you are not dealing with a mouse, you are dealing with a colony, and the trap sitting in your kitchen right now was never built to stop that. My name is Elvis Yoder. I am Amish. I farm in Pennsylvania, and between the granary, the corn crib, and the hayloft, I have spent more years than I'd like fighting mice than almost anything else on this farm. We do not call an exterminator. We never have. And the reason is not stubbornness. It is that the trick my grandfather used costs about $1, takes 10 minutes to set up, and outperforms every snap trap I have ever bought from a store. Before I show you any of this, it's worth a moment to confirm what you're actually dealing with, because plenty of folks set out traps for mice when what they're hearing is something else entirely, a squirrel in the soffit, or nothing at all but an old house settling at night. Mouse droppings are small, dark, and about the size of a grain of rice, usually clustered near food sources or along the edges of cabinets. Look for a greasy smudge along the bottom of a baseboard where the same animal has rubbed past the same spot night after night. That streak is body oil, and it's one of the most reliable signs there's a regular travel path through that exact spot. A faint, slightly musty smell near a pantry or behind an appliance is another sign, and so is the sound itself. Mice tend to produce quick, light scratching, mostly after dark, rather than the heavier thumping of something larger moving through a wall or attic. If you're hearing any of that, you almost certainly have what today's method is built for. So let me tell you where almost everybody goes wrong first, because if you do not understand this part, nothing else I tell you will matter. Most people catch 1 or 2 mice in the first week of using a trap and then nothing. They assume the mice are gone. They are not gone. Mice breed faster than almost anything in your house, and a colony that loses 2 members in a week barely notices. What's actually happening is something different, and most folks never catch it. The mice that are left behind learn. A mouse that watches another mouse die near a particular smell does not forget that smell. Within a few days, the survivors are walking 3 feet around your trap instead of through it. You haven't solved your mouse problem. You've trained the mice that are left to avoid you specifically. I see the same frustration with the fancier options, too. The glue boards, the electronic traps that promise a clean kill with a beep when it's done. Folks spend $20 or $30 on a pack of those electronic units, thinking the technology will outsmart a creature that's been outsmarting predators for longer than houses have existed. And for the first mouse or 2, sometimes it does. Then the same thing happens. The survivors get cautious. The batteries die faster than anyone expects, and the unit ends up in a junk drawer by July. None of this is really a story about clever mice. It's a story about which problem you're actually solving. A trap kills 1 mouse at a time, after the fact. What you need first is something that gets a whole population to come to you, on their terms, before you ever set a single spring or a single battery. The second mistake, and this one is almost universal, is the bait itself. Peanut butter, cheese, chocolate, all the things the box tells you to use share one problem. They dry out. A mouse has an extraordinary sense of smell, far sharper than a dog's relative to its size, and a smear of peanut butter that's been sitting in your pantry for 2 days has already lost most of what made it tempting in the first place. You're not setting a trap. You're setting a stale, half-scented decoration that a mouse walks past on its way to your cereal box. Here's what's actually going on with the mouse's behavior that the trap companies never explain on the package. Mice are what biologists call neophobic, which is a fancy way of saying they're suspicious of anything new in their environment. A mouse doesn't walk straight up to a shiny metal trap with a strange smell on it the first night. It investigates from a distance for 2 or 3 nights before it gets close enough to trigger anything. That's why so many people give up after a few days. They think the trap isn't working, when really the mouse just hasn't finished being suspicious of it yet. Understanding that one fact changes how you set everything up. A mouse also relies far more on its whiskers and its nose in the dark than on its eyes, which is part of why it hugs walls and corners rather than crossing open space. It's reading the world through touch and scent long before it ever sees what's in front of it. Every part of the method I'm about to show you works with that instinct instead of against it. Now let me show you the bait, because this is the part that matters most, and it costs about $1 for enough to last you the whole season. You need 3 things from your own kitchen cabinet: a few tablespoons of plain oats, a few tablespoons of cocoa powder, and a small amount of baking soda. Mix the oats and cocoa powder together first, about equal parts, and that mixture alone is going to do most of the attracting, because cocoa carries a strong, sweet smell that doesn't dry out and fade the way peanut butter does. It stays appealing for weeks sitting in a dry spot, not days. Then you work in a smaller amount of baking soda, roughly 1 part baking soda to every 3 parts of the oat and cocoa mix, until it's evenly distributed through the dry blend. Here is why that baking soda matters, and I want to explain the mechanism honestly, because I think you deserve to know why something works. Not just that it works. A mouse cannot vomit, and it cannot pass gas the way larger animals can. Its body simply isn't built for it. When baking soda mixes with stomach acid, it produces carbon dioxide, the same reaction you've probably seen in a kitchen science experiment with vinegar. In most animals, that gas just gets released one way or another. In a mouse, it can't escape. And that's what ends the problem quickly. And without poison, without chemicals the mouse has to physically carry back into your walls, and without anything that can harm a curious dog or cat the way actual rodenticide can if they get into it. You're not using a chemical poison at all. You're using the same box of baking soda sitting under your sink right now. You take a small spoonful of that mixture, about a teaspoon, and you place it in a shallow cap or small dish, not loose on the floor where it'll scatter, and not anywhere your own pets can reach it. Set that dish along the wall where you've seen droppings, or in the back corner of a cabinet, never out in the open middle of a room, because mice travel along edges and walls almost exclusively. They very rarely cross open floor space if they can avoid it. That single fact is the reason so many people place bait in the wrong spot entirely and then wonder why nothing happens. Now give it those 2 or 3 nights I mentioned earlier. Don't move the dish, don't refill it early, don't check on it constantly every time you disturb the area. You reset the suspicion clock for any mouse that was starting to get comfortable. On night 1 or 2, you'll likely just see that the mixture has been nibbled at the edges. That's a good sign. It means a mouse found it and is testing it before committing. By the 3rd or 4th night, in most households dealing with a handful of mice, you'll start finding the dish completely cleaned out. And within a week or 2, the droppings and the noise in the walls noticeably drop off. Now I want to show you the second piece of this, because the bait works best alongside something physical, and the one we've always used costs about $3 and outperforms anything plastic you'll find at the hardware store. Take a tall kitchen trash can or a 5-gallon bucket. Either works, and set it against a wall in the room where you've seen the most activity. Run a wooden dowel or a piece of stiff wire straight across the top rim, sticking out a few inches past the edge on one side. On the far end of that dowel, thread an empty soda can so it spins freely, like an axle through the can. Smear a small amount of the same oat and cocoa mixture onto the can itself. Then lean a thin board or a short length of scrap wood from the floor up to the rim of the bucket, like a ramp, right next to where the dowel sticks out. A mouse smells the bait, climbs the ramp, reaches out onto the spinning can to get to it, and the can simply rolls out from under its feet. It drops straight down into the bucket and cannot climb back up the smooth sides. Add 2 or 3 inches of water in the bottom if you want it to be a final solution rather than a holding pen, or leave it dry and check it each morning if you'd rather relocate what you catch. Either way, my own father has caught a dozen mice in a single night with one bucket set the right way, and it costs less than a single trip to the hardware store for a box of snap traps that may or may not work the second time. Set the bucket trap in the same wall hugging spots as the bait dishes, a corner of the pantry, behind the washing machine, along the foundation wall of a garage. The two methods reinforce each other. The bait mixture pulls mice toward that general area of the room over several nights, and the bucket gives you a physical method working in the same spot for the mice that find the ramp before they find the dish. One more piece, because this multiplies the effect of everything else. Seal what you can. A mouse can fit through a gap the width of a pencil. That's not an exaggeration. That's just how their skeleton works. Walk your foundation, your dryer vent, the gap where a pipe enters under your sink, and stuff anything pencil width or larger with steel wool before you ever patch it with caulk or foam. Mice can chew through almost anything except steel wool. A roll of it costs a couple of dollars and does more to keep new mice from arriving than any bait or trap ever will. Now, I want to be honest with you about what this does and what it does not do, because I won't tell you something works better than it does. This bait is excellent for an ordinary household mouse problem, the kind where you're seeing a handful of mice in a kitchen, a pantry, a garage. It is not a fast solution for a true infestation that's been building for months inside your walls. In that case, you're managing a population, and it will take a few weeks of consistent placement, not one dish overnight. I'll also tell you plainly that not everyone who has tried the baking soda method reports the same results, and there's honest disagreement among folks who've used it about how reliably it works compared to a physical trap, which is exactly why I want you using both the bait and the bucket together rather than betting everything on one method alone. And it does not work on rats. Rats are far more cautious than mice, eat differently, and need an entirely different approach. That's a video for another day. If what you're hearing at night sounds heavier, like something dragging rather than scurrying, or if the droppings you're finding are closer to the size of a grain of rice than a poppy seed, you're likely dealing with the bigger animal, and none of today's method is built for that. For the everyday mouse problem most of you are actually dealing with, though, this is the system, and it is the one my family has trusted for generations over anything in a store-bought box. Now here's the part I think about every time I walk past the pest control aisle. A box of snap traps costs a few dollars and needs replacing every season because the bait still goes stale, the mice still get suspicious of the same trap shape, and you're back at the store buying more. A monthly pest control contract for rodents runs most households somewhere between $30 and $60 a visit. Over a single year, that's somewhere between $360 and $720 every year for as long as you own the house, because a service built on a subscription doesn't profit from solving your problem permanently. It profits from you needing them again next month. There's no company selling a bottle of baking soda formulated specifically for mice, because the moment they did, you'd realize it was the same box sitting under your sink for $2, and you'd never call them again. My own father used to say the reason we never had a lasting mouse problem on this farm wasn't because we were clever. It was because we couldn't afford to call anyone, so we paid attention instead. I remember one winter when I was maybe 12, we had mice getting into the feed sacks in the corn crib faster than we could keep them sealed, and my father wouldn't let me set out a single poison pellet because we kept barn cats that wandered everywhere. He built 2 bucket traps instead, baited them with the same kind of mixture I just showed you, and within 10 days the crib was quiet. He told me that night that the trick wasn't smarter than the mouse. It just understood what the mouse already wanted and let the mouse do the rest of the work itself. That's really the whole of it, not a secret, just attention paid to something most people stop paying attention to. So here's what I want you to do this week. Mix up a small batch, equal parts oats and cocoa powder, with about 1/3 that amount in baking soda, kept in a dry container in your cabinet. Set out small dishes along the walls where you've seen activity, not in the open. Build 1 bucket trap for the room with the most activity, using a dowel, a soda can, and a short ramp board. Give it 2 or 3 nights before you judge whether it's working. And walk your foundation with a roll of steel wool, because closing the door behind you matters as much as anything in the dish. Tell me in the comments where you're seeing mice the most: pantry, garage, barn, attic, and how bad it's gotten this year. I read every one of these. Next time, I'm going to show you the old way my family keeps rats out of the grainery entirely, which is a different animal with a different set of habits, and a trick involving nothing but where you stack your firewood. It's the natural next step after today. Until then, seal what you can, bait what you can't, and remember, the people who built this country with their hands knew things we are only just starting to remember.